Muito boa tarde. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Portugal. It's quite an honor to be here after your amazing speech. I really had a lot of questions ready for you, but I'm speechless, in fact. So congratulations.
Thank you.
For you and all the Rappler journalists here and all the journalists in general. Besides Maria Ressa, we also have Karin Peterson, Director of Public Policy and of the media group Schibsted, that's right, has been elected chairwoman of the World Association of Newspapers and News Publishers. Its mission is to protect the rights of journalists across the world to operate free media. And we also have the president of the World Editors Forum, Dave Calloway. Welcome also, both of you, to Portugal. Maria, I had a lot of questions, but you answered most of them in your beautiful, amazing speech. But you also, as we have seen in the video, you've also have been accused of all those awful things, right? And you also have been threatened with your life, to rape. How do you manage? Because when the Rappler got targeted for closure, you said something like, we are just journalists, and yet there's a lot of effort being put to turning journalism into a crime, which it shouldn't be. It isn't. We're speaking true to power. That's what we do. That's what makes a democracy successful. We're not afraid. How do you manage to continue not afraid every single day?
Because I think this is a fight we can win. And I think that, I thought hard about who are our allies. There are men and women in government who are trying to hold the line. But, we've been journalists a very long time. I won't say how many, but how many years. But when I see power combined with money, and then with this kind of exponential fear that really, that smashes you, you take stock. And I think, strangely enough, this is 2 years of these online attacks, so bring it, you get inured to it at a certain point. And the thing is, look at the data. You will know if it's real, you will know if it's not. And after we went through this psychological barrage, when the government filed the cases, and there's several. I have a case where I could face anywhere from 5 to 15 years in prison. Strangely enough, that's easier to deal with because when President Duterte says something, I can respond to him. When a fake account, or when an account that you have no idea whether the account is real or not, do you respond to that? So in many ways, traditional journalists who have standards and ethics, we are handcuffed in the age of social media. And that is why this is a particularly vicious and effective tool against us. So sorry, it's a long-winded answer because I've been thinking about it for 2 years.
Yes, I can imagine.
It is, let's say, I have hope, great hope. And
And hope overcomes your fear, maybe. It has to, I believe. We also, together with this World News Media Congress, we're also living these next 2 days, the Women in News Summit. One of the things is that if they target your work, but you have been a target of the increasingly hostile gender targeting. So that's one thing that, as a woman journalist, also worries me. Do you think it's worse for you because you're a woman?
Yeah, absolutely. The data shows it. I mean, Julie Passetti will say as early as 2014, women were targeted on Twitter globally 3 times more than men. Mm-hmm. Our data shows much more than that. We're in the process of crunching it. We're talking about, we call it the Shark Tank, this kind of propaganda machine. Yeah. 350 million comments. These are all public comments. 12 to 15 million accounts that are part of it. And when you're bombarded with that, it changes the values of a society. So those are my fears. My fears is that the next generation, the Philippines is always at the top of all the gender equity studies. But after we go through something like this, what happens to the values of the next generation when it is okay to threaten rape or be sexist or be misogynistic, and people, young men, see it? And the worst attacks have not come from bots, right? I've called out, I publicly, the only way you deal with this is shine the light. So I publicly post it on my page, and then when I do that, one man in particular who was quite vicious, his school within 12 hours contacted me. He was just graduating college. So I worry, and that's part of the reason, positive and negative, right? In a way, that means our cultures, in a strange way, are merging, but that means that this kind of stuff, if we allow it to continue to happen, will bring worse values to our cultures.
Yeah. Karen, so you have spent all your life in journalism, politics, advocacy, and you told me that what fundamentally drives you is the belief that journalism has the power to make the world a better place. You still agree? You still fight for it?
I do agree, but first let me say congratulations, and I'm just in awe of you and the work that you do. It's such an honor to be on the same stage as you, Maria. And just to your point and to your question, I think, so I come from Sweden, which is one of the oldest and most peaceful and oldest democracies in the world, and it's very peaceful. It's a consensus society. But the same mechanisms that you describe, we have them even in our political sphere, in our public sphere. This polarization, the levels of rage, the levels of fear, the levels of aggression are on the rise. And I think we need, as an industry, to think very deeply about, of course, supporting each other, as we try to do, but also to think about this new layer of technology, this information infrastructure, and as an industry, put pressure on these giant companies to step up and to deal with these problems that we see all over the world, because it's the same from the US to the Philippines to India to Sweden. It's happening everywhere. So that's a mission for us, I think.
And regarding this question regarding the gender-targeted hate campaign,
Yeah.
we will also have some special thoughts on it. Maybe you have, because you cannot forget
Yeah.
places in media, right?
No, I just completely agree. I think you talk about, I love the sentence you use. You talk about a spiral of silence, and I think it's a fact that many voices, more and more voices, are now left out of the conversation or are too scared to participate. And many times we see in the public sphere that, I mean, these are often targeted attacks, directed. It's a political tool to silence people. Propaganda with political purposes behind it, to actually silence certain groups of people and to make the public debate more narrow and be dominated by other groups. So it's a big problem. I've lived in the public sphere myself, and I've seen this, I mean, personally, and I have many colleagues, as I said, even in my country, that just don't participate anymore because of death threats and because of the levels of hate. So it's true what you say. That's my point.
Mm. So Dave, what do you think are the main challenges to media freedom worldwide? I know it's, well, at least two challenges.
Obviously, the main challenges to media freedom are, in the individual governments that are trying to use it against us, but more importantly, the collective use of the weaponization of social media and the internet. This is, threats to journalists, predate social media. I mean, online, we've had threats as long as we've had email. Before that, many of us will remember getting letters at our newspapers. Threats to women journalists are often more heinous because they often involve sexual assault intended to strip the dignity, as Maria said. But what's happened is that the tools that we've used to get our news out has exponentially increased the amount of threats and the pace at which they come. I wrote a column in 2001 criticizing the then Bush government, and I generally received about 60 to 100 emails per column. I received 4,000 emails in 24 hours. Just before there was Twitter, my email screen was going like this. This was an orchestrated campaign by real human beings who had been mobilized and told to send these emails. Now, automate that and force it into, and use automated bots that can just keep firing and keep firing. And you see what we're up against. So the movement to the strongman leader in many countries is a major threat, exacerbated by the even bigger threat of the technology being used against us.
I have a question for the three of you. Do you consider a threat or an opportunity what is called the citizen journalism? You know, I always regard it like you know how to drive a car, but you don't have a driver's license. But sometimes the citizens are in the middle of something and they try to, at least to get some attention to some kind of information. What do you think, Maria, starting with you?
It's both. I mean, you know, the time when we called them citizen journalists was in 2005, 2007,
Yes.
and then they became parts of our communities. They are both actors and sometimes the targets of manipulation, and that partly adds to the chaos of the landscape that we live in now. You know, I don't think there's any easy way out of this. This is creative destruction, but whoever owns the platform, and I don't mean to just give that to the tech companies, but we used to be gatekeepers. When it was our home, we maintained the rules. We had an elaborate set of standards and ethics. I don't think tech companies can hide behind algorithms because the assumptions of algorithms are determined by humans. And so they need to clean up the cesspool that allows authoritarian rulers to game the algorithms to attack the truth. So this isn't, and again, I'll just jump to one last thing, which is this is connected to the global geopolitical landscape we're living in. Journalists have always known information is power. But this is determining the new power landscape. And that's something that's got to be addressed. And we need to actively sort this out. Otherwise, we're going to be Alice in Wonderland and the Mad Hatter will be in charge and no one will take responsibility for it.
Yeah, Karen, your thought about it, please.
Well, to your question about citizen journalism, I guess coming from journalism, journalism is a process, it's a set of ethics, it's a way of doing things, and I think it's important for us as an industry to stick with our standards. And I think you can use all types of information and all types of data or testimonials, but you need to be careful about how you structure the information and to have control of the editorial process. So that's my thoughts on that. To your point, I think it's crucial that it's not only we as journalists that are under threat here, it's also a fact that this type of information landscape that you are describing, it gives power to certain political forces. It's not neutral, it's not up for grabs for anyone. It gives power to people who are driven by who feed on rage and fear and kind of the lowest common denominator feelings, and that's not a neutral political space. So I think that's a very relevant point to us as journalists as well.
I would just say, even within what we would all define as the universe of professional journalism, there is a range of credibility from the trusted brands to the less trusted brands. And that is the same within citizen journalism, and but it is a wider, more extreme range. Some of the journalists who lost their lives in this last year have been citizen journalists fighting for what they believe in. And so you have to look at the range, whereas others on the far end could be beyond less credible and into actively pushing disinformation, right? So it's all about, who can you trust? Unfortunately, technology has allowed everyone to have the same voice. And therefore, as Maria noted so eloquently, we have to work with the technology platforms that have enabled us to help fix that.
Maria, you told about your crowdfunding, still running, and so everybody can check on your website to contribute in some way. But the economic independence of news media is, of course, an essential condition of that freedom. How do you manage to get this balance?
Sorry, the balance of?
Between your economical independence, because
sure.
you need money.
Yeah, guys, we're nothing if our business doesn't survive.
Yeah.
All of us, correct? So we want our business to survive. And when we first started Rappler in 2012, we came with a kind of strange business model which uses the crowd. And because I came from television, I think CPCs and CPMs are really horrendous. So we brought our TV prices to the web. Thank you for the advertisers who came with us. But native advertising, all of that, I think the days of native advertising are gone, right? And now we've had to pivot. So we pivoted our business model. We now need crowdfunding, subscriptions or memberships. We're all playing with it. But this isn't where we will wind up. And I think that's part of the greater questions we will handle in the next 2 days. But let me put it this way. For a Rappler, we're looking at data. We're looking at technology. We're looking at the skills that journalists bring to the table. And we're very quickly, especially after the legal cases began, we're very quickly turning them into products that we are giving to companies who need it. Separate team doing that. Our business must survive in order for us to survive. The easy answer is that you want your community to pay for your journalism. In my country, the majority of our base cannot afford it. They can barely put 3 meals on their table. So I don't want to lose that because it's impact versus economics, right? So we're running at 1,000 miles an hour to find something that we create that we can then monetize. We have something interesting which we can share with you later on.
You can share it now.
I mean, I think we're all looking at all different types of revenue models, right? There isn't one, it's not like the old days, like I keep saying, how I long for the old days.
Yeah.
It's not like before when we had all the power, we owned the distribution, we owned the content. Now, we need to quantify what are the skills.
Entrepreneurship challenge.
Exactly, precisely.
Dave, you're...
No, I totally agree. It's where we're going here is a new world. We need the technological help. We have to stand by our guns and our trusted credibility. And we need to help each other, particularly help each other fight.
Yeah, because we need a strong advocacy to promote more solidarity in our sector. Do you think so? We need to help each other as
Yes, well, we had, and I know we're running out of time here, but we, just real quickly, we had our World Editors Forum board meeting this morning, and we have made great strides in the last year communicating with each other on a daily basis, not meeting once a year or twice a year in board meetings in fabulous resorts.
Fabulous
Communicating on a daily basis, helping each other, using our reach to support each other. And we have to do that. Our enemies are trying to fragment us and conquer us by division. That is one of the ways we can fight back by working together.
So time is up. Karen, do you think this economic independence and the need for the money, as Maria was telling, could compromise the media challenge towards civil rights, towards human rights?
No, I think the problem for our business is that we need to do two things at the same time, and to have laser focus on both producing really good, high-quality journalism, but we also need to reinvent our business models, and of course that's draining in terms of energy. So, but that's the magic trick that we need to continue doing.
Can I quickly jump there,
Yes,
which is
of course.
that so I think part of it is we need to get back some of the revenues from the platforms. Sorry, my friends who are there, right? I mean, distribution is one thing, and they have, but when you look at how in each of our countries, the tech companies are taking up to 90% of the new digital ad spend, right? Up to 90%. I think the information.com in the United States estimates that it's up to 99% of all new digital ad spend is going to the tech companies, while we continue to spend for manual, experienced, skilled labor to actually give the information every society needs. There's got to be a new balance, and perhaps that's where we could collectively come together.
I hope at the end of these 2 days you can get some kind of commitment towards that big challenge. So thank you so much, Karen, Dave, and of course Maria. Congratulations once more, and #keep going girl. Thank you so much. Muito obrigada. Boa tarde.